Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of the Rewatch podcast presented by the Terrible Video Gamers Club. I'm your host, Tyler Schatz, someone who is not choreographed enough to learn a choreographed dance sequence like that. Joining me for one fine recording podcast session is a Stephen Howard.
Who can play air guitar like the guy in NERV Control Center? Heck yeah.
One Amanda Howard.
Who doesn't fish, but after watching this episode, the first episode, I'm thinking I could take it up as a hobby, if that's how it works.
One Josh Cox.
Who can also be found nerding out over airplanes and aircraft carriers.
Very true. Very, very true. And last, but certainly never ever least, one Gary Delaney.
Thinking that this show is perhaps a backdoor advertisement for Dance Dance Revolution.
Time period is kind of sort of right, isn't it, for that game's popularity?
Pretty much.
Well, 95.
You'll have to Google when did Dance Dance Revolution come out. I'm sure
Just
it's an
in Japan in
arcade
1998.
Oh, 1998. So
Yeah,
this is a
pretty nice.
precursor to Dance Dance Revolution.
They said, hey, we liked what they were doing in that show there. Let's make that a game.
Yeah. Dance Dance Revolution and Pacific Rim combined, grabbing whatever ideas they can from Evangelion.
It's the show there, the one from all media comes from.
There you go.
All right, so I believe we are here to discuss episodes 8, 9, and 10 for this recording. So we're going to kick it off here talking about episode 8. Throwing it over to one Josh Cox.
Episode 8, Asuka Strikes, or Asuka arrives in Japan. Misato, Shinji, Toji, and Kensuke travel to a famous aircraft carrier to collect the new EVA 02 and its prideful pilot, Asuka Langley Soryu. A seaborne angel strikes the fleet, and Asuka leads Shinji into her EVA's entry plug for an immediate demonstration of her skills.
So I want to say right off the bat that JC, you said that you were also be nerding out about the aircraft carrier and the planes. Amanda and I are sitting watching this, and she turns to me and goes, "This is you fucking nerd."
I don't
Kensuke
think I
is
said
all
it
of
in
us.
those exact words.
Oh,
Are you saying that Steven would be super excited about aircraft carriers?
I am. I
Even
am.
literally
We went to San
kept
Diego
interrupting us
and
to be like, look at that plane. Is that a this? He paused it a couple different times to look up things,
yeah,
which he told me we would not do so that I could pause for my notes. We weren't allowed to pause for my notes, but we paused for him to check airplanes.
I had to know what style the battleships were as well, and the battleships were
What
based on the
a
Yamato.
loser.
Where's that?
What a
He
loser.
rewinded to double check that.
I did double check that.
I got
The aircraft-
sarcasm about, like, is this real? Why does everything say NATO on it? Why is everything in English? And you're like, let's pause this show to see if these cartoon hand-drawn
Yes.
planes are real planes.
Yes, they are Essex style aircraft carriers, Yamato style battleships, and fake airplanes.
Yeah, my first pause of the episode was whenever Kensuke points out a Mi-55D transport. I was like, oh, I've heard of Mi helicopters, but I don't know about the 55D, so I had to double check it. No, disappointing.
Yeah.
See, I wish they had been a little bit like all the other stuff is so, I don't know. You can say that it's pretty close, but then you have the aircraft is always just super, super stylized.
Fair.
Yeah. No pauses in my watchings for aircraft carrier related checks. None of that. So, Amanda, after he paused for aircraft carriers, did you get pauses for notes? Did you demand pauses
No.
for notes?
No, in fact, he got mad when he looked over and realized I was putting my note in really fast that I missed the split second of whatever plane he wanted me to see, so he rewinded back.
What? That wouldn't be me. No.
With the
So I
Yak
got my notes
38i by
released.
chance?
Yeah, I didn't remember. That was much more of a, honey, that's really nice. That's cool.
It was really nice and really cool. And to answer your question, Gary, all the ships say NATO because they have to, or not NATO, they say UN because they have to.
UN.
because the UN would never have a military force in its existence. That's not going to ever happen.
So basically, it's copyright infringement. Also, the reason that all these random ships don't actually exist, because it's like anything else. It's an actual company that makes actual products that will sue the fuck out of a children's TV show if you misrepresent their product.
This is not a children's
can,
TV show.
First of all, it's not a children's TV show.
Speaking of
Second of all,
misrepresenting products,
military companies would sue some fuckers over.
You think that Raytheon is going to come in and start suing people because they drew the missile wrong?
Raytheon doesn't have to sue. They have other ways of threatening.
Brand, if they reference a brand and then they show some like half-ass cartoon drawing, they'd be like, that is not what our fucking ships look like. Our fucking ships look like a wraith flying in the sky, and they are true works of engineering design. What you drew looks like shit. Take that shit out of your cartoon. Don't reference us.
No. The best they're going to do is they're going to reference the Yamato, which is great that they referenced it because it's sitting at the bottom of the ocean.
I didn't catch that.
Oh, it's the
you're
Yamato,
saying in general. Yeah, I thought you were saying that it was actually.
No,
if you told me that the Yamato was hidden in the scene later on, then I would have completely believed you.
That'd be real cool.
Yeah.
So it's referencing a ship that actually exists. Yeah, see, all the fuck over my head. Tyler, how many pauses did you have for looking up ship, aircrafts, and other things?
0. That is not my wheelhouse of really caring too much about.
Missing out.
I just assumed like they're all made up or something like that.
Did not. I was actually paying attention to the plot, and the ships were just kind of a background story. And honestly, 90% of them are fucking destroyed by the end of the episode. So I didn't assume they were like. If you would have told, here's a better question: did you count the number of ships and then see if there's the correct number of ships destroyed and remaining at the end of the episode? That would be more surprising, because I'm pretty sure they just drew in a fuckload of ships and they destroyed a fuckload of ships.
Gary, I task you to go back and do that.
I give 0 shits enough for that. What do I win if I find out that there's a what is that called? Where there's an error in a movie? Continuity error. If I find a continuity error in a Japanese cartoon from 1996,
you win nothing, sir.
Yes. Anyway, I guess that was your. I was paying attention to Asuka, and the fact that like the first episode, you're like, wow, she's a little something, and then it escalates. Like, my other backup intro was, this new girl is the worst. Proof that Germans ruin everything.
But Amanda had the fun comment while we were on. We've descended into just commentary. We're not even going past one person or the other, are we? But Amanda made the fun comment where they had German in a Japanese accent, and it makes the German incredibly difficult to listen to.
Sure.
Well, and Steven's like, oh, didn't you hear that? It was German. And I was like, what? So that was another example of him rewinding. And first of all, he rolled his eyes with an obvious, like, this was so obvious. How did you not hear the German? And you listen to it, and I'm like, I would have had to. I don't think I would have ever guessed that just listening to it. I'm like, that's so. It's kind of cool, honestly, listening to the German and a Japanese accent.
Watch it without English words. I listened to it with English, and I was like, oh, stop thinking in German. And then that made me realize that, oh, she was probably speaking German there. Like,
yeah, the dubs make it a little bit weird there, where she's still speaking English for all of that, except
Do they really? In the English version, they just keep speaking English?
Yep.
Oh,
the Eva is making German words happen, but she's speaking and we're hearing English the whole time.
Okay, so in the English dub, she speaks in German, corrects him and say, stop thinking in like stop thinking in Japanese and start thinking in German, and then she says in English, Ava, please change to Japanese.
Japanese,
I'm
yes.
so culturally insensitive right now. Sorry. But is it different in the not dubbed version where she just is consistently speaking like German and then switch to Japanese and then switches back to German? Or
No, the only time that she actually speaks German in the subbed the subbed version is when she gets into the capsule pod and she starts speaking the activation words, and those are all in German. And then as it starts going on, there's errors or whatnot, and she turns to Shinji and she does the exact same thing. She goes, "What are you doing? You have to stop thinking in Japanese and start stop thinking in Japanese and start thinking in German." And Shinji's like, "The fuck, bro?" And she's like,
in the
"Fine."
English
And
dub,
she goes,
she tries
"Well,
to say like bratwurst or something in English a couple times. She's like brat, like I don't know what word it was, but it was like
I will
just
say,
imagine someone repeating the only word they know in German over and
yeah,
over again.
das ist
She
gut,
even
ja,
got
sehr
like
gut." But
the way
real
she
quick,
worded it too. She was like, are you seriously thinking in German right now?" Like as if it was absolutely outrageous without telling him at all. Or are you
no,
seriously
she was
thinking in
thinking. He
Japanese
was
right now?
thinking
What
in
were you doing that?
Japanese. Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Sorry.
Well, and I like that she says switch to simplified Japanese too. She does not say switch to
Oh,
Japanese. She says switch to simplified Japanese.
nice.
Didn't get that in the English dub.
No kanji for her.
Later on, in the English dub, I think it's the next episode where she talked about she can't read the books because she doesn't know all the kanji, which I assume for idiots. I know enough to know that's basically you don't know the alphabet or you don't know like the words that are symbols or letters. That whole language thing over my head, but I understand the basic premise is that she can't read the textbook because she doesn't speak the language.
Well, she can speak it, she can't read it. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, that's basically next episode stuff where she's all talking about how basically smart she is otherwise except for that part. But yeah, our first introduction to her really is the part where across the aircraft carrier deck the wind is blowing Toji's cool hat away, and then he finds her skirt, and that's our introduction to this other 14-year-old girl. Is this whole extremely weirdly sexualized moment again in the show where it's just one awkward moment after another here where we are promised fan service in these next episodes, and here are these weird moments with 14-year-old girls. Shotzi?
Yeah, the guy just drops his pants right in front of her. It's just like,
Yeah.
wow.
That's
I mean, if I need to equal out the conversation of like, whoops, well, here, let's make it real fucking awkward.
Well, I do think
I'm a
that
crazy
specific
person.
one.
Also, not 14-year-olds. In the clarification, age is a very, very restrictive concept of this whole conversation.
Yeah. Okay. I will say I do think that part was played for a little bit more laughs than a lot of the other sexualized stuff that happens in this show, because she's sitting there with her arms on her waist and she's supposed to be looking all cool and what, and she just stepped on his hat, so she's supposed to be like, she's trying to be like, I'm so cool, I'm so boss right now, and etc etc, and then the wind comes and blows up her dress and it's supposed ha 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 sort of thing. So that one I a little bit. We'll talk a little bit later on episode 10 about what happens there, but so this one I could see just played up for sort of laughs, but it also, I think, points out to her character that she stands like, and people don't see, I'm doing the Asuka pose right now with hands on my hips and just staring out, and you're wearing a dress on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the ocean. What did you think is going to happen? So wind blows up her dress and she then slaps everyone else around her. Like, how is that their fault, man?
I thought she just slapped that one guy. Also, who's
No, she
dumb enough
slapped
to
all
wear a
three.
baseball cap on an aircraft carrier? That
Yeah.
seems like another stupid choice. I know little, but I do know that you shouldn't wear baseball caps in places with high winds.
Yeah, as soon as we were introduced to Asuka and I see her wearing a dress, I literally was like, well, I can tell you right now
Yes,
why. Yep, there it is. There's a bad idea.
literally the
I was
first.
like,
We didn't even know it was Asuka. All we saw was the outline of her showed, and Amanda goes, "Oh, that's a kind of cool picture. Why is she wearing a dress on an aircraft carrier? That's so stupid."
yep, and then
Two
it was
thoughts
proven, and I
intermingled.
was like, I can tell you right now what's wrong with that.
Fashion over
Clearly
form.
not written by somebody who has worn a dress because you would not wear one on there.
I maybe she's 14. Like you'd think someone would tell her, "Hey, don't wear a freaking dress on an aircraft carrier," but maybe she didn't know it was going
That's
to be
true.
windy. Who knows?
14-year-olds can be idiots.
Yeah,
Nope.
that would be my response, is that 14-year-olds are idiots, and she is very much a person who we learn is all about posturing and image, and if nothing else, putting on airs that she is completely in control and completely on top of her game, and nothing is going to get the best of her. Even the wind on an aircraft carrier, she is going to triumph over it, and if she can't, then it's your fault.
Yep.
So, yeah, to me, I could see her making that choice absolutely 100%.
I was
Amanda
gonna
was.
ask.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. You can go.
no, Amanda was talking. A lot of what we were talking about during this episode specifically was. We keep saying Asuka, so now my Asuka's name is in my head. Oh my gosh.
Misato?
What's Misato? Thank you. How Masato walks on and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here," blah blah blah, and just being a kind of dick to her. And she's like, "Yeah, sure, ha ha ha. Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes." And then later on in the episode, she just sneaks in and goes,
My
"Sounds like you're
favorite
having."
part. My favorite part. Hey, Nerve here. Want some help handling this totally unknown enemy you've never encountered before? I adored that. I love that. I hope I have the chance to say that like that someday. That was absolutely amazing. And not to mention the fact that she handled it totally like a pro too. Like she was so cool about it with with perspective. She's like, he's a proud man. Anyone make a snide remark or two. I was like, she was polite. She was still in control. She had good humor, and then was just like, "Hey, want some help now?" Absolutely loved it. Nailed it.
Oh, yeah. I also caught that there were some tinges of bureaucracy between the Navy and NERV, of like rah BS. Also, I have to I had a specific question for the group, but I have to exclude JC and Steven because they know what's happening coming up. So I don't know, Tyler, how have you know what's coming up? Or like, have you seen this show before? I think you haven't, correct?
No.
Okay. So for the two of you, what is your best Ahsoka conspiracy theory? After only having like an episode, she's introduced, just kind of random character. What's your most like shot in the dark, craziest
Does this count
backstory
as a
or
Gary
explanation?
conspiracy theory if we're coming up with them?
Yeah, I don't delve into conspiracy theories over here, so I mean,
I don't know. I was sitting there, and as I was already irritated with her a couple minutes in, and then I'm writing down, wait, is she the next pilot? Because she's like, mine is red. And then, of course, she is the next pilot, and I was like, I have only seen 3 episodes with her now, and she's driving me nuts in about 2 3/4 of them.
Would you agree
I
that
do
it's like
not.
an escalating? The first episode, she's kind of annoying and like,
Yeah, it
oh well,
definitely was.
she's trying to assert her dominance, and then it just gets worse.
She did win a
JC?
little bit back for me in the last part of the 3rd episode that we've watched today, but I was annoyed with her very quick. I mean, even like, sometimes people who ask forgiveness that rather than permission, like you can get away with that if you're right. But like she just, I'm waiting for a disaster or something. Also, she's totally different in terms of personality from Rey and Shinji. Like, so what are the qualifications for being a pilot here?
Yeah. And to speak to that sort of different personality, I was going to kind of rephrase Gary's question a bit to make it a little less conspiracy based. Do you think that that between Shinji, Rei, Asuka, do you think Asuka has more to learn from those two, or do they have more to learn from her? to make everybody kind of better off on this team? Start with Shotzi.
So I think this question is kind of though answered in the next episode when they're going through their routine and stuff like that, how much she has already got everything down and all of that. So I think both Shinji and Asuka have a lot to learn from, oh boy, what's her name?
Ahsoka?
No,
Like-
There's Shinji, Asuka, and Rei.
Rei, that's it. Thank you. Wow.
Right.
So people have things to learn from Rei.
Mhm.
Oh. See, and I would say that they're kind of a continuum where Rei is completely destroyed. She has no identity, no ambitions. Like, she's just going through the motions. Shinji was kind of being beaten down emotionally, and the only reason he's getting through is because he has family. Like, he feels like he belongs. He has a purpose by being, like, if he wasn't doing this, he wouldn't have a family. He'd just be wherever. On the continuum to Ahsoka, where it's like, this is like the pin on her resume of like, I am so much better than you. Like, I'm gonna be the president someday. Like, just a completely different way they see the role. And Ahsoka hasn't had any like emotional or psychological damage. And just the continuum of like how much psychological damage the other two have. Steven?
I would slightly disagree with that. They all seem damaged in their own different way, almost. I would say that Rei is. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Rei. She has zero. I don't know,
To all
care
the
for anyone,
listeners,
but
Steven totally knows what the fuck's wrong with Rei, but he's muting himself. I can see him. He's like, and you just see him struggling. It's like, I don't know what's wrong with you. You know exactly what the fuck is wrong with Rei. Just admit that you have secrets and continue.
okay. I have
But
secrets.
Gary just proved my point there. Like, Steven will try not to give anything away, and the way he does it gives away that
Oh
there
my
is something to
gosh.
give away.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Anyways, there's something really messed up with Rei, and she seems to have zero interpersonal skills whatsoever. And not to say that Shinji has much interpersonal skills, but he does have some. And Shinji is obviously damaged in the fact that his father is seems to be abusive, I should say.
Time clone.
Yeah, time clone is a time clone. And everything kind of stems from that. There's a lot of pressure on him at all times. And then something seems off with Asuka as well. So she seems, and this is maybe getting into episode 10 as well. She seems like she's really attached to the new guy that's introduced in a kind of a weird way. She seems like she's trying to make herself out, and Shinji even says it in episode 9 that she's trying to make herself seem older, and she's 14, and she's trying to make herself seem like a grown-up. And Shinji's sitting next to him on the bed, and just the kissing scene where he doesn't thankfully kiss her, but he says, "See, you're just a child too," and that's she's crying for her mom at that point. There's something wrong with every single one of these kids, and
That
they
might be a
express it in a
spoiler. I
different
didn't know
way.
there was anything about her mom, so
It says it.
That's
It
episode
does.
10.
I forgot about that point, but yes, she just like whispered.
It's when Shinji and her are on the mat together.
Well, I remember that.
And-
I didn't remember that mom
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
she
starts-
starts crying and she says "mommy" or something like that, or "I want my mommy" or something. But
Okay. I'll accept it.
forgot
yeah,
about
I
that
guess,
part.
and they express it in different ways. A complete devoid attachment to Ikari for Rei, a kind of a off, I don't know, a disassociation maybe with Shinji, and a hyper focus with I'm gonna forget her name now. Asuna, not Asuna. Yeah, wait,
Asuka?
Asuka. Thank you.
I need a fucking flowchart to explain who the fuck all these people are.
The redhead. The redhead is super highly. She takes out it all in work, and she needs to be the best at everything, like what you were saying.
Like how Steven knows these episodes back and forth, but doesn't actually know what's going to happen because he's trying to pretend that, but still doesn't know their names. Uh, I forgot about that little part there with that because I was sitting here during that episode trying to be like, maybe Ray and Shinji, they do seem to have this ability to just focus and do their job. So I was comparing and contrasting them. Asuka is just so different in terms of personality. But I'm also like, what training camp did she just get done with that she fully knows how to use these? And she's a good fighter and graduated college and all this. It's like she went to some special camp for how to drive how to be an EVA pilot. What? This is literally only the third one in existence. And she's like, I can't believe you guys don't know all this stuff yet. Brand new. Where did you come from? How could you possibly know all this already?
Sorry, go for it.
Nope, I'm just waiting to see what you say.
So what I was going to say also, one of the things that also kind of adds on to that for me is the fact that when she's delivered, she says, "Oh, you guys don't even have real Evas. I mean, Ray has a prototype, and no, what was it? Ray has a prototype, and Shinji has the test version, something like that. And she has a real fighting one, so she's the only one with a real Eva." Is the first thing that she says, and proceeds to immediately sink into the ocean.
She went fishing.
She went
I don't know.
fishing.
That was just my I asked about conspiracy theories because literally I haven't gotten a good read on Ahsoka other than she's not a very likable fucking character, and obviously you assume that she's scarred and she misses her mom, but has no redeeming qualities other than the previously mentioned sexualization of a 14-year-old. It just seems like she's just a terrible person. She's gonna be a terrible person no matter where they are. Yeah.
I'd say that in terms of redeeming qualities, I would say she also Shinji has, I would say, a negative amount of confidence, and Asuka, despite being overconfident to a fault at times, I think there's definitely something to be said for overconfidence being better in a lot of scenarios, especially in a situation where you need to be 100% committed to using your Eva to save the world at any given moment. You can't be doing the Shinji thing of just staring downcast at the floor and wondering if you're going to run away this time. You need to be confident that, no, I kick ass. I'm going to get in this giant robot that is way better than your giant robot, and I'm going to kill this thing. That's something that a fighting force needs at times. So, to kind of follow back to my question, the way I asked it, I do think that that's something that Shinji and potentially Ray, I don't necessarily, she doesn't seem to, I don't know if she could necessarily use confidence in that way, the way she just doesn't seem to interact with human emotions the way that other characters do yet. So, yeah, it's something that I would say that's probably Asuka's largest strength at this point, aside from just that she's clearly smart and knows her stuff to begin with, after going to Eva camp, wherever it was in Germany.
I entirely agree with your idea about if you're going to be a fighting force, right, you need to believe in yourself. And who knows what Ray believes? Ray believes whatever she's told to believe, but Shinji definitely does not believe in himself.
Where do I sign up to go to Eva camp? Is there sign up somewhere that I'm missing?
Are you one of the children?
Theory. There is an EVA camp in Germany.
I don't know if I
In
qualify.
general,
And
you
it
should
is a
never
real
sign up for
place.
just hands down, no ifs.
Jesus, Gary.
Oh, Gary.
I might actually have to cut that out.
You guys are talking about and I just that's all I get. I'm a terrible human being.
Gary,
I accept that. I'm sorry.
there's inside thoughts and then there's outside thoughts. You just let an inside thought out.
And that's what I'm going to say now from now on. Inside thoughts.
Inside thoughts now.
Speaking of letting inside thoughts out, we are introduced to Kaji.
What I'll do. That's what I'll do with my toddler when she gets older. When she says something she shouldn't out loud, I'll be like, inside thoughts, honey. Those are
Remember,
inside
Gary,
thoughts.
inside thoughts.
Yep.
Okay, Kaji. Anyway.
So yeah, speaking of inside thoughts, yeah, Kaji, we are introduced to him as alluded to by Steven earlier, and yeah, he is clearly someone from Masato, and as we learn later, Ritsuko's past. Immediately in our episode 8 here, he's referencing that he's clearly knows what Masato gets up to and acts like in bed in a group of everybody else. And so all of the kids are freaking out at that point, trying to figure out what's going on because they can't imagine two adults in bed, I guess. But yeah, what are kind of especially first thoughts that you guys see from episode 8, where we just kind of see him acting a little bit silly with Masato, and then he hops in a jet and flies off to meet Gendo before we kind of see him interacting with everybody else. What are kind of first reads on Kaji? Gary?
I didn't even think about that he like explained bedroom interaction like super immature, like it, not even just implying that like that she's a slob at home, that yeah, like just being a player and like just like wearing that as a badge of honor. Also, I think he is definitely part of the double secret society that's like secretly villains, because he gets whisked away in the middle of battle to like go to safety. Secondarily, my deep time clone like addition for him is that he is secretly Shinji's father, and at some point as a baby, Shinji gets brought back in time by his time clone, and so there's actually
No. I have the first. I have reserved the
Conspiracy
spot.
theories must start with conspiracy theory number.
Okay.
I said it was an addition to the time clone conspiracy. So I didn't think it was its own full-fledged. It's just an addition on that. Like, this is the things I thought about. I rewatched this episode. I'd never rewatched any of these episodes. I rewatched them, and that's what I got was like, perhaps Masato, like Masato was in fact her Shinji's time clone mother or something. Like, I don't know. I finished watching it. It was like 1 a.m, and I was like, this crazy shit. Anyway, Steven, you get first at bat.
I want to point out that we are now believing that Shinji's father is not Shinji's father, but the guy that just walked in is actually Shinji's father, come back from the past. But Shinji has actually gone back in the past himself and is now there directing Shinji and Shinji's father to be.
No. You messed up the timeline.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Shinji in timeline A and this Kaji has a baby with somebody, and Shinji from timeline A goes back in time with baby Shinji, and so both the two different timeline levels of Shinji exist going back in time. So he brings a baby back in time with him, and the only way he can explain it is that this is my son.
Before this podcast is over, I'm going to want a full-fledged diagram from you, Gary, on how this whole...
Yeah, you're talking about flowcharts for names. This is what we need a flowchart for.
I saw, as soon as Gary didn't even finish all the words, and I watched a beautiful view of all three of Tyler, JC, and Steven shaking their heads practically in synchronization. And I've never seen that before, Gary, so I do appreciate that. But I feel like I should count this as a conspiracy theory.
Just like losing it. I was like, about this time clone thing, I still think awesome idea. And it has plausibility. Additions to the time clone theory, a little shaky.
So to get back on JC's original question here, I think he kind of comes off to me kind of like as a sleazy person there. Like there's definitely an ulterior motive behind everything that he is doing so far. It seems like, especially too, because it's like he shows up and he's like, peace out, I gotta go, right as they're in the middle of battle.
So I want to point, so the first time that I watched this, because I am rewatching this, I thought, and maybe this is because I was such a kid and whatnot, but I watched this and I was like, oh, this guy's cool. This guy's really cool, like fucking smooth. And look at it, he's just really cool. And then I rewatched it this time, and I rewatched it this time with the benefit of accrued knowledge and wisdom of age. And he's weird. He's creepy, and he's like, especially in episode 10, and when he is Asuka is very obviously like kind of coming on to a 14-year-old coming on to you. You shut that down. You just shut that down right away. That's not a thing you go, oh, this is funny, cute. Let's move on now. No, you fucking shut that down. He's weird in that way. And he's obviously hitting on both the scientists and Masato at this, but in a, I don't know, a plutonic way with the scientists and very not plutonic way with Masato. He's just kind of weird. JC?
I wasn't sure. Did somebody else have something first, or I thought so. Okay.
I just wanted to say that despite Gary's conspiracy theories and Steven's accrued knowledge, like that guy just everything about him is the red flags are strong with this one.
Yeah, I would say both points. The red flags are strong with this one, but also as a teenager, Kaji is exactly the type of person that a teen male would aspire to be. He is confident. He is smooth. He has all those qualities that we are told that's what masculinity looks like. This is what you should aspire to be. He goes and tells the lady that, hey, this is what you want. This is how things go. That's in a earlier timeline. Like, that is what you were told. That's how relationships should look almost. And now with wisdom, with it being the fact that it's 2024 now, you can look at it and there are just all these things, even in the animation, whenever he's pointing out the things that Masato does in bed, he's playing footsie with her underneath the table and she's pulling her feet away. So you can see these little details in the animation where Masato is clearly giving physical signs that she does not want to be involved in this way, at least in this public situation. We somehow get weird, confusing situations later on where she's talking to Ritsuko about, like, maybe this is going to be different. I don't know, but at least to me, a lot of the earlier scenes with Masato and Kaji are fairly clearly in a wiser mindset here, viewing it. It looks like he's a complete creep. He's definitely just got those red flags. She is not having any part of it, and he just keeps pushing it in a way that should not be. Gary?
What is Shinji's dad's name? Just so I'm getting the timeline correctly.
Gendo Ikari.
I'm not going to remember that. Also, Gindu.
I want copies of this flowchart.
I'm working on it. If I'm a little distracted, everyone, it's because I'm working on my flowchart.
At the end of this podcast, we'll post a link to some Google Doc that has this flowchart out there, along with all of them, like the count of total conspiracy theories and everything like that. All right. Is there anything else we want to keep discussing on this episode? We've kind of been all over the place, it feels like.
We really have.
I did want to throw one thing in there that I'm surprised Steven didn't bring up. Just if we started the episode barely in there, and I was like, 5 carriers?
Oh, yeah.
And
So
only
it's
4
what?
battleships? Am I missing something with my limited naval knowledge? Also, they're very close to each other, are they not?
Okay. So yes, this is and if you've listened to me on, I apologize if you've already listened to me on, say, Game of Thrones on this sort of stuff. The line of battle for this thing, it makes no damn sense whatsoever. If you have a fleet with an aircraft carriers are literally miles away from each other in fleets. Those pictures you see of them right next to each other are literally just for photos. Like, even dating back to World War II, to have 2 aircraft carriers in a single fleet, they'd be miles away from each other because you don't want someone to find both aircraft carriers at once. So if you have 5 aircraft carriers, they are spread out. And the second thing, why would you? It was cool to identify the battleship as a Yamato class battleship, but there's a reason why the Yamato was sunk in World War II, and that's because battleships suck. I hate to break it to everyone in their battleship love. Battleships suck. They will never come back. They're never going to be a thing. Stop trying to make them a thing. So when this when this
All
episode
complaints from
ends,
Hasbro can go to Stephen Howard. His Battleship is fucking amazing.
Battleship
Unless
sucks.
I'm
And
playing,
yet-
in which case my nephews destroy me in Battleship.
And Gary, tell me how many aircraft carriers you have in that game.
The aircraft carrier is
Why
a
are
long, flat piece of shit. So I think that's one.
Yes. I was like,
You
why
have
are
a
you thinking
rowboat that
about
takes
this?
one missile. You have like a medium that takes two. The aircraft carrier is the long, flat piece of shit that takes like 5, and you can't hide anywhere on the map. 0
The man that just told us
stars.
he was good at this game.
Fuck aircraft carriers.
No. Aircraft carriers are where it's at. That is power projection. That is where it's at. It's the
Yeah, which is
battleships
why I
that
was
suck.
I was absolutely floored when they were like 5. I was like, 5? Like 2, I would be freaking out.
In
Like
the game
5?
of Battleship, I want a goddamn rowboat. I want that like one peg rowboat you can hide anywhere.
Well, okay, let's also point this out. They have 5 aircraft carriers there in a fleet that's condensed. That's the size of, I don't know, a black hole of naval fleets. And they have 0 aircraft in the air. They have no sorties. They have no reconnaissance.
There was no
they
aircraft. The aircraft
nothing.
were the worst part of this battle.
It was, what's the point? Why do you even have an aircraft carrier? It's it makes absolutely no sense. And you know what they could have done? Because they end up, the ship or the fish eats 2 battleships, and they somehow have a manual self-destruct button on battleships now. So that's news.
Yeah, I wrote that down.
But that's how they blow it up in the fish's mouth. And you know what you could have done? Fucking drop a really big bomb on it, because that do about the same thing. So end rant.
Yeah, no, the air power thing, I also thought of it whenever they were mentioning like 5 aircraft carriers. So far, I mean, we've seen a lot of angels show up through the sea or from the sea, but then they're still bipedal creatures, or they're airborne creatures. They're creatures that don't necessarily live in the water and attack from the water. So I could see that if you're trying to have a fleet that is potentially guarding against some sort of weird angel attack for some reason, if there's some sort of secret thing on board, then yeah, you might want a bunch of aircraft carriers that could potentially have airborne attacks going against something. But once it becomes a seaborne battle, then really the aircraft could just serve as decorations that can fall off a ship whenever Eva goes bouncing around the decks.
Not if you launch them. If you launch your damn aircraft, then they're in the air and you can drop whatever the fuck you want. Hell, fire a couple missiles into the sea. I know it's going to be pointless, but at least you make yourself feel better before your aircraft falls into the sea itself. But I don't know. Do they not have sonar as well? Like, how did that not pick up anything? Does AT Fields also eat sonar? Do they have no active sonar? Do they not have like a single freaking submarine sitting around there going, "Hey guys, I'm out here"? No.
I have some also very conspiracy theories about like this angel attacking in the water, which even the show is like, I didn't think they could attack in the water. How are they doing this? And I was like, I feel like there's either some plot armor, or it's fucking tracking one of these little fucking kids, or Masato, and they're trying to murder the one kid. Another adder to the time clone theory. It's like Terminator. They're trying to kill Shinji before he can go back in time and fight the robot revolution.
They're probably trying to get something on there, but
Shinji is the John Connor of the Evangelion timeline.
It's a little more complicated than that, but
yeah,
it's an
Tyler, it's
acceptable
fucking dumb when you
reference.
say it like that.
I feel like there's a compilation to be made of angels versus T2000 liquid metal attack things of like turning your arms into spears, etc. We can make that happen. We'll add that to the red yarn board for the end of the series. But yeah, we do find out at the end of the episode what the angel was most likely tracking. How do we phrase it? Correct. The first human being. This is Adam.
Amanda saw that and she goes, "The hell is that?"
That's a fair reaction, to be fair.
I'm really glad we watched like 3 episodes in a row this thing, because my first one I was like, how the hell are they they're tracking you guys somehow. How are you guys there? Then I was like, oh, they're tracking that. Oh, look, it's an angel. What? It's a human? Oh, it's an angel. I don't know what's happening. Like I left all those notes in there, but honestly at the end there's no addition here. There's no answer to this problem. I have no clue what's happening here, so I'm just gonna hold back on that theory. Unlike Gary, who can be prolific with his.
At least somebody can show some restraint on this podcast.
Nope.
Um,
That was all my notes for episode 8. So if we've easily been jumping around.
Right.
yeah.
We definitely. I feel like as the podcasts continue and we hit more episodes, there's going to be themes that stretch across multiple ones like this. But yeah, I think we don't know enough about what's going on with Adam, but it's definitely a weird thing. Human instrumentality project's integral component, we're told, but we're still in the dark about what all that even means.
Mm-hmm.
So.
We're good to move on to the next episode then, it sounds like.
I think so.
Take it away, Josh.
Sounds good. Episode 9. Both of you dance like you want to win, or mind matching moment. A quick attack against a new angel by Asuka and Shinji ends in an embarrassing defeat when the angel suddenly divides itself. Shinji and Asuka undergo learning a series of synchronized dance movements as per a new team-oriented strategy. This is the Pacific Rim episode.
Yep. No, I was about to say Benicio del Toro, but no, that's the actor. Guillermo del Toro is out there just stealing.
Brothers, or are they not at all related?
No
I
idea.
also didn't realize. I assumed they were the same person the entire time.
We're learning a lot about Gary today in this podcast. What do I have here to start off this? Oh, my very first note here is settle down, Gary.
Sorry. What's the name of the third Eva driver? I need to make sure I get the names right on my conspiracy on my flow chart. So that's I'm just asking as I'm going.
Muska Langley Soryu.
Muska. Okay.
No,
Thank
Muska.
you. Continue. Sorry, I just wanted to get names right. Continue, Tyler.
Asuka.
Yeah,
with
you did.
an
You said I want to get the names right, and you immediately got the name wrong.
Pretty much.
So, what is the new guy's name? JC or Steven?
Aji?
Sorry, what?
Aji, the one that with Masato history.
Is it Haji?
I had Kaji.
Aji.
Oh, I was thinking Kaji.
Aji, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, very first line I took down here is perv guy. No, now I know why I wrote this down here. Because it starts off with the kids there at the school talking about Asuka there, and it's just like, perv guy's gonna perv there, and they're basically just going through all of this film roll that they've taken of her, and it's like, geez, dude, settle down a little bit here.
Yeah. Especially including the. Oh, sorry.
So,
I wrote down God Save Me from Teenage Boys, seriously.
So I'm going to ask this question here because it's kind of the weird thing I think about sometimes when I'm watching this show, because the show is trying to show a perspective of obviously these young kids who have, they haven't had the life experiences and everything like that to realize this is not the nice thing. This is not what you do to, women that you like and everything like that. So I always kind of like wonder here, like, are we sometimes being too harsh on these types of scenes? Because here we have hindsight and years of perspective, and it's 2024 and stuff like that. We should be better people, but at the same time, it's like we were all young, dumb, stupid people at one point in time. Some of us, Gary, maybe haven't quite grown out of that. Double birds, I'll take that. Okay. But I mean, like, obviously everything is wrong. Like, we can all clearly state, like, what they're doing is just kind of wrong. But at the same time, though, it's like, it's still kind of somewhat portraying an accurate portrayal of how young children are a lot of times. I don't know. Steven.
I entirely understand what you mean, and I'll be honest, I slightly agree with you on this, although it is obviously not right and weird. But it's like my comment earlier. I really liked Aji when I watched this as a kid. I really did, and I thought he was really cool, and I thought he was pretty awesome. And it's as a kid, that's kind of what you would idealize, and especially coming from coming from 4 of the 5 of us have been teenage boys, and we've lived in that high school, middle school sort of climate, shall we say, of everything is kind of hypersexualized, and everything is kind of it's high school and middle school boys can be kind of perverts. It's not great, and it's not an excuse for them either. They need to be taught better, and they need to grow up better, and they need to be taught that boys being boys is an excuse for being a fucking creep. But that being said, that is, especially when this was made in the 90s, that definitely is the culture then. It was a culture when I was a teenager in the aughts, so it definitely was the culture in the 90s. So I don't want to excuse it. I know where it's coming from, and it's conflicting. It's not great. You want to say, no, this is impossibly bad. Nothing. This is horrible. All that sort of stuff. It's not. It's unfortunately realistic. So
Yeah, I'd say it's not necessarily that it's unrealistic or that we're kind of unfairly painting them in a more negative light because of our current situation, but I would say that even knowing that that was kind of the culture of the time, looking back to whichever episode it was, whenever they're talking about Ayanami's supple thighs, that's like extreme teen culture to me. Like they got hormones, they can't control it, they're just being weird. To me, the gross part of this opening bit is how it's all these creep photos of Asuka, and they're talking about how ugly her personality is at the same time. Like they're just completely just taking her down and saying how horrible she is. And if people really knew what she was like, they wouldn't even want these photos. So to me, that's the part where they're sort of dehumanizing her even beyond what a typical teenage boy might do. Like it's a real bummer to me that it's Kensuke and Toji doing this, as we find out. Like, if it just was 2 random boys at the school, I'd be like, oh, those 2 boys suck. These are characters that I like otherwise, aside from this scene. Like, I love Kensuke being a weird army aircraft nerd. Toji standing up for his sister is a cool thing, but here we are just having a moment where they just, admittedly, they're shitty teenagers. But I would say that this isn't. This takes it a slight step above just being the normal level of shitty teenager to me.
Yeah, and I can kind of completely agree with all of you guys' points here too. Like it is kind of somewhat normalized in this here because
I didn't say shit, so don't roll me in with these fuckers.
I was agreeing with the 2 people who have talked. I mean, if you have more points
opinions.
If you have more points to provide us, Gary, by all means. But it seems like it's
I'll
definitely
in general agree.
It seems like it's definitely a very real portrayal of young teenage boys who have their hormones running wild. But I do kind of agree with you there, JC, of it's slightly a step too far, even though I mean, it happens. It's still slightly a step too far with where they took those 2 characters to, with like basically like you said, knocking her down while still objectifying her body. Amanda.
I give a teensy bit of leeway because they're young and stupid. I give a teensy bit of leeway because I know that was the times. And then that being said, all that leeway kind of only adds up to like a little bit, and the rest of it is totally judging them. I know it's also because they're characters I do like, just like JC said. Um, for me, I'm like, hey, I never did that. I was young and stupid as well, so it's easy for me to judge. Like I said, Like Steven said, though, I wasn't a teenage boy, so it's harder for me to know. But I would like to warn those boys that, like, if you're gonna be like that, then you better have something else redeeming to your personality, or I'm gonna stop liking you real quick.
I also noticed that her locker is full of love letters. I didn't catch that until the second watch, that like there's all these pictures of her, and the two buddies that you follow are obviously perverts. But she also is getting a lot of other attention because based on the two buddies, you don't assume that the love letters are from them. I would assume that they're from other people. So obviously she's getting a lot of positive and negative attention because she's the new person, and people make assumptions. So
Yeah, and I think there's some language at the start of the episode from other people talking about like, oh, the new person, she's American. Oh my gosh, she's got all these other things. Do they grow up faster over there? And like just all these very much teen boy comments that are talking about how much she's the new interesting thing in school, especially since this is apparently a very somewhat small school where everyone kind of knows each other. And so here's the new kid in class, and she's very boastful about being an EVA pilot, so that's already another cool strike for her, or cool point added to her, not necessarily a strike. And so yeah, she's clearly got a lot of interest in that sense from all the teen boys, and also Kaji and Toji, or Kinsuke and Toji, are selling out with all their photos, so there's clearly business there. There's a lot of interest for Asuka. One point I was gonna.
Sales. I didn't even catch that it was a sales.
Oh yeah,
business.
yep. Kinsuke and Toji are taking photos of her and then selling them to the other boys. Yeah, it's fun.
I mean,
And that brings it back a bit to the point that I was going to mention too. That like I appreciate that this show is messy and it does get into like these things do happen. Like, is it a shitty teenage thing? Yeah. Do I want it to be happening to these characters I like? No. But does it really happen? Yeah. And so I appreciate that this show is willing to get messy in those sorts of things that, as we've covered with previous things, of just like the awkward moments with Rei and Shinji so far, and just as we will continue to see with a later episode of Kaji and Masato, and just Kaji in general, I guess. Probably better to put a blanket umbrella over that. Yeah, I appreciate that the show does go there. It's not always going to be necessarily portraying things in the best light, but it's portraying things in what I perceive as a real light, which I appreciate. Shotzi?
Yeah, you basically just hit my point I was going to make there. Is like it's actually portraying these characters as real people and not, an idealized, they're these perfect specimens or whatever. So, Steven.
I wanted to echo and say that you're right. It's everyone in here is flawed. There isn't a single paragon character. Everyone's flawed. Except for Gary. Gary's a paragon.
Not Gary. Gary's pointing to himself.
Gary's
I
renegade.
agree that it shows them. I will agree that it shows them more realistic, but that also just makes it easier for me to judge them and not be like, oh, is this bad writing? I'm like, nope, now I'm just judging you as a character.
I think
so
that's
hard for me during those scenes to not just roll my eyes. Like, I am rolling my eyes, as Steven can assure you of that, while I watch these, but I usually just end up shaking my head and just scribbling something snarky into my notes.
Yeah, and I think that you're judging the character, I think, as much as we almost wish sometimes that we don't judge a character in a negative light. Like, that's something that I think about with the show a lot, where I'm never thinking in a meta way about the writing or anything. Like, some scenes like will look a certain way and make me think like, wow, the animation on this or the lighting on this or whatever is great, but I'm never taken out by the writing. There are sometimes whenever they say like bazongas, I'm like, who came up with that word? But otherwise, like the character motivations and stuff is never to the point where I'm thinking like, why would they write this way? It's more thinking about like, why would this character act this way? And I'm thinking about it from their point of view and trying to put myself in their shoes or judge them based on their actual qualities as a person, which I appreciate about this show for sure.
Did you have something else to add, Gary? I thought you were. No? Gary's good? Okay. Let's see, what other... Oh, yeah. The other note I kind of wrote down here is, and I'm sure this is kind of just, where we're at in the show here, is like, it seems like we're at kind of like, it's almost a little monster of the week type kind of show going on right now because you get a monster that shows up, the Evas lose, they learn a lesson in between, then they go fight the monster again, roll credits.
I'm pointing specifically at JC. I just pointed the camera for no one that can see this. I pointed at JC.
So
Yeah, no, I knew that the episodes got to this Monster of the Week sort of stage, and so yeah, I knew that despite last week I think we did 3 episodes again where it was 3 episodes can be very dense in EVA terms, and even still, like episode 8, we saw the first human Adam. Like that's a huge plot point. It sounds like, but we don't really know much about it. We just see that it exists, and we're off to the next Monster of the Week. So yeah, there's stuff is still happening in the world of EVA, the greater lore, but it's very much these, set up and pay off one week and you're done sort of things that are happening for these episodes.
Yeah, I wrote down an angel attack? Gasp!
She didn't write
Who
it
could
down,
have
guys. She
seen
said
this
it out
happening?
loud. She said it
And wrote it down.
very out loud.
Well, because they're like, oh, we're on a little cruise, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure that won't matter. That won't. Or
Weird.
is this when they went on the field trip?
Uh,
This
th-
one or the next episode?
that's
What is the
episode
monster
10.
of the week list? The first one they're at sea, the second one they're in lava, and the third one they
No.
have twins?
Yeah.
No, first one is sea, second one is dance off, third one's lava.
the twins is the dance
Yeah,
off.
either way. Like, you just have to be ready constantly with these guys. And I was like, an angel attack? Who would have known? Oh my gosh.
Weird.
Yeah, because
Almost like
we start the episode or the series with the first angel attack in 15 years, and now it's like feels like every other day. It's like, oh, here's an angel again.
You gotta wonder why they're so surprised every single time it's happening now.
Yep.
You also gotta
Well,
wonder.
and like,
Sorry.
no, sorry. I know this touches into the next episode a little bit, but when like they get denied for their field trip or whatever, and she's like, "You're on standby," and then Asuka is arguing, and I'm like, "Were you not just out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and you got attacked by an angel? Like, why are you at all confused? I know this is happening. I know this is coming."
Did you have something else, Steven?
I forgot what my point was. I apologize.
Okay, it happens. All right.
Did any notice the very strong Dance Dance Revolution vibes? Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Not at all, Gary.
Oh.
Could you tell me what is Dance Dance Revolution there? I've never heard of it.
it is a very active game that involves stepping on, I believe, 4 cardinal directions, and I think the corners do something different. The corners maybe start and select. I don't remember. There's usually a
Terrible at that game.
guardrail if you see it in the arcade. A guardrail so you don't fall off and like fly off. Also, I noticed in the Dance Dance Revolution section that the third Ava pilot was like offered the opportunity of like being part, and Asuka was like, F that. Like, I can do this if you're going to replace me. Like, kind of. I think that was maybe the one chink in her armor, is that like, as soon as somebody said like, oh, well, yeah, like this other person can do your job, she was like, oh, no, they can't. I can totally deal with this dude.
What do they say about pride?
I don't know. What do they say about pride, Steven?
Harmful.
Yeah, whatever.
I feel like there's more of a saying to it than that, but
yeah, I was gonna say I was expecting he was gonna tell me which
not good.
Civil War general pulled this quote out, and
I could if you want. I'm sure I could find one.
Just combine a few things, Steven. Say pride goeth before a fall. That was said by Galileo at the Battle of Thermopylae, right?
No one is
I know that was inaccurate. Don't have a heart attack, okay? I'm sorry.
Steven is like emotionally hurt. Like he looks like he's gonna vomit.
One of the,
Steven,
one
I
of the
did it
most.
on purpose, okay? It's
I
okay.
don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Yeah, we
Everyone
get
just giving
pushed.
Steven some time to recover.
We get introduced to the idea of the synchronized combat after they first lose, and the Evas get shoved like toy dolls, just buried halfway underground after the failed attack. And the director of Project E, they're like watching back the playback of the battle in this like military theater room, and then they say like, "The following is a statement from the director of Project E," and a voice comes over and just says, "Appalling." And that's it. That's their statement, which I loved. And during that same scene is a little fun bit of world building. I like where Fuyutsuki says that because they used an N2 mine, we're gonna have to draw the maps again, which I really love. That they're like, oh well, as soon as they use one of these bombs, they have to redraw the
Well,
maps because like a new lake will be there or whatever. I love that little bit. Steven?
I think I'm so when it shuts to the pictures of their Evas being, thrown face first into the ground, my first thought, I will be honest, was why did these Evas never finish the job? We were talking a little bit about James Bond before we got on this, and it's just like the Doctor No sort of, I will exposit my plan to you before I kill you, and like just let them live for a little while longer, sort of thing. Like you, with how smart these angels can be, I it's striking to me that they don't ever kill the Evas. They don't ever go for the finishing, blow if they have completely incapacitated the Eva.
Double secret society run by Gindu.
Yes,
He's the penultimate villain.
true.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the sequence is more that in the middle of the battle, like the angel splits, and then is it a hard cut right at that point essentially? Because I was thinking that then like presumably off screen that like the army talks about having to have used in one of the N2 mines. So I thought that like this attack happens, the Evas get flung away, and before the angels can finish the job, the N2 mine hits, and that's what keeps the monster at bay at that point. And because now the monster's doing the whole regenerating thing.
I
Was
thought
that
they gave a timeline that like at this second, Shinji gets knocked on his butt, and then like 30 seconds later, Asaka gets knocked on their butt, and that was the explanation. Is it was just like they got divided, and then they just like cut to this is how much longer it took before our
Right.
mechs were out of commission.
I will say I thought it was interesting that they sent Asuka to battle with a spear. Like they just attached a one of those knives to apparently a spear to just make it that much little cooler. I don't know exactly why. At that point, just give him a Gundam Wing, laser sword. But I was not entirely sure why you'd give someone a spear for that job, and then the other person an assault rifle. So
Just that's their not all giant mechs can have all the powers. You can't have swords and guns. You get one or the other.
You need
You're
to
either a
watch some Gundam Wing
melee-based
there.
combat or
they've been
assault
nerfed.
rifles. In
You're
RPGs,
nerfed.
you can never have both skills.
It's
You get
true.
one or
I
the other.
apologize. I apologize.
That is true, yeah.
I live by few rules in life, and that is that you can either have guns or swords. You can't have both.
One of the things I did like about this episode too was the dancing portion where they are doing the DDR in their apartment, and Asuka's like, "Oh, this Shinji, he sucks. He's not good at this at all. If I only had a better partner." And then immediately Ray goes in there and just shows what's what, and it kind of I think that's the first. I'm trying to remember exactly if that's the first time that Asuka has been shown up in a very direct way, which she cannot respond to. She can't blame anyone else. It is just straight on her. It might be, and it seems to impact her really strongly.
Well, she doesn't take those other failures as anyway her fault. She blames all the other failures on Shinji.
Mm-hmm.
Like both times they lose against the twins, she blames Shinji for that loss.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, she didn't even like whenever they're failing at the DDR, like, oh, it's Shinji's fault. Stupid Shinji. And then that's when Masato says, Ray, go up there with Shinji. And that's whenever she nails it. And then that's, yeah, as Steven pointed out, like, Asuka has no more, she can't point out that it's Shinji's fault anymore because Ray is able to do it with zero practice, apparently, and be nearly completely synced up with Shinji. At that point, because the class president Hikari is also over at that point because they had
Yes.
to all of the school friends got to come over and see Shinji and Asuka wearing the same clothes and have a whole weird moment there. But then Asuka runs off and Hikari says, "Go after her," which has another one of my favorite Shinji lines of "Why?" Just like
Yeah.
legitimately clueless.
You hurt her feelings.
Yeah, and she's like, "No, that's what you do. If you made a girl cry, you go after her." Like she's again just 14-year-old girl as well, going like, "This is what the movies do. This is how love stories go. You girl cries, you run after her, love, whatever." Like that's how it reads to me is that she's just has this whole thing, and that's not just that like, hey, Asuka's just kind of messed up. Like she just might need to work through some stuff on her own. Hikari just has none of that. But to me, this whole episode also just it's one of the funnier episodes, I guess, to me as well, between like the doll-like aspect of the Avas losing in battle, this moment of Shinji just legitimately being confused about how these situations work. It's a weird episode. Steven?
One of the things that I also was wondering about this episode, and maybe you guys heard this and I didn't. Why doesn't Ray get a shot at fighting in this episode?
I think her mech is broken, maybe?
Is it still
Her mech is
broken?
being rebuilt. I just
I just
assumed it was.
assumed hers was
being-
less advanced since they kept on calling her the prototype.
Sure, but I mean, it has fought before, and presumably, if you can, I think maybe Asuka says this at one time of saying that she wants to go 1-on-1. It's so stupid that they have to go 2-on-1. Oh my gosh, it's so undignified. If you're gonna just do that, just go 3-on-1. What's the
What if
sadness
there's
about
only
having the
two
third out
mech
there?
launchers? Is there 3 mech launchers?
Yes,
There ought to be
I am
two.
sure there's only 2 mech launchers in the entire city, that they have that entire Jenga thing going up for any given mech. No, I'm
It
pretty
wasn't
sure.
designed for a third mech. Like it's in storage for parts right now.
Well, I mean, there's just so many things you could do. Freaking put her on a hill with that damn sniper rifle again if you really want to do that. Why are you not using her? She is obviously synced up with Shinji. Other than it just being a monster of the week episode that you need to teach, Asuka a lesson, I don't see any reason why Ray's not out there.
Yeah,
Who
I'd
would
say
she
that.
blame? Who would she blame if it's not just Shinji?
It's fair. Fair.
I think a bit of it is that Masato is kind of flexing her power and also just testing both Asuka and the rest of the team to say, hey, Asuka needs to learn to fight our way as well. She can't just come over and be bossy all the time. So while Asuka wants to fight on her own and try and take on this monster by herself, like Shinji's got to be there. And also, I would say that of the 3 pilots, if you're going to send 2, Asuka clearly is pretty advanced in terms of her knowledge and her fighting skills, and her bravado gives her an edge in combat. And Shinji's sync rate just naturally is so much higher that even Asuka was blown away whenever she hears about the 40% sync rate or whatever that Shinji attained on the first battle. So I think those 2 clearly seem to be the best pilots. I still think Rey could be effective, but also Gendo doesn't seem to be that interested in sending her into battle yet if he doesn't have to. So it could be a bit of that as well. Gary?
Conspiracy theory number 1 for this episode, and that is that they possibly will replace her. So this whole process is like maybe they're unsure about Asaka, and they're like, oh well, we have a backup if she doesn't work out, and she better mind her P's and Q's. And they're trying to build, as when you fire anyone, you have to make a record of their failures before you can just fire them right away. You have to so she has a growing record of carelessness with this giant expensive government mech. She doesn't work well in teams. So is her connectivity to the mech worth the large personality flaws that she comes with? Or do you chain and maybe you switch and then she gets the shitty prototype mech because she can't play well with others, she can just have the shitty prototype now. That's my conspiracy theory, is that she's being trained to be replaced. That is all. I don't remember who started this line of inquiry.
It's a great question. Amanda, do you have anything you want to talk about for the episode? We'll just throw it right at you.
There was a lot of them saying they made us look like fools, and I was like, oh no, are the 14-year-olds not cooperating? Did the 14-year-olds fight?
So weird.
Yeah, at the very end they said it again. They're like, they're making us look like fools, and I was like, dude, you have pilots and fighters at 14 years old. That's amazing. They are not dignitaries. They're 14. They did the job. I don't think you get fighter, pilot, and dignitary. You don't get all three. They're gonna fight each other. They're gonna fight your angels. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's the EVA version of like the business, like fast, cheap, or good. You can only pick two. Like you get 14-year-old military weapons, then yeah, you can have them effective, good. Yeah. So
Of course, you're gonna hear their little sniping at each other over the
right.
thing that everyone can hear. Or what? Okay. Well. Because they were showing all the bills for all the damages, and I was like, we have literally never seen that before in any of these episodes. This is the first time I remember them complaining about the damage. They've literally been quite the opposite. They're like, oh yeah, we'll just pay for it. We have money, blah blah. We use all the money. Budget's gonna need to be a bit higher. Was I think the closest. This time they're like, oh no, look at all this damage, and I'm like, oh please, like you cared before.
Well, I think that's a reference that because they went to fight the angel first. Like they took planes, they just loaded up the Evas on some planes and then airdropped them away from Tokyo 3 for the first fight. And I think that's what ended up like being the issue from what I recall, where like now the damage is happening outside of Tokyo 3, and now Japan is pissed. Like, hey, we built you a whole stupid
Define
city
your
that goes underground on it.
damage.
So yeah, if you're gonna fight an angel, do it at your own house. Yeah.
I also did appreciate the little quote from the class rep when they were like, "It's the class rep," and she said, "It's 2/3 of the idiot trio." I mean, that sounds so snarky, but I was also like, we also saw, as what we just spent a whole time talking about what these 14-year-old boys are doing. I feel like they kind of earned it.
Fair.
I don't know if Shinji entirely. Well, he was doing it too, so I guess yeah, they have. The only other note I wrote down was just cool that they coordinated a musical number together. They showed that little bit with the music and everything, and I was like, nice, practically Hamilton over here. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say, we not only get a training montage in this episode, we also then get a battle montage right after that.
True.
It's an awesome battle scene. Two good uses of music in this episode, I'd say, where, the one is the battle scene of just like you get that 1 minute countdown happening as just the awesome little piece of music plays and no other battle sounds happening until the final crack and explosion of the angels. What do they call them? The core of the angel, that red thing. And then the other piece of music serving a bit more of the cacophony style of music that has done previously is whenever we do get that awkward interaction in the apartment between Shinji and Asuka, and Shinji's music tape player accidentally goes into, is it fast forward or rewind, but you just get that tape sound of just that high pitched, fast pitched music as well, and just as it's just constantly building up this screeching sound as he's trying to muster up the courage to potentially kiss a sleeping Asuka in front of him. And then she does have that little tear up and she says mommy in her sleep, and then he just cuts to the overhead view of him on the bare floor being all huffy about like, oh, you're just a kid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Two very good but opposing ways that the show uses music, and both happening in this episode that I like.
See, I didn't catch that they were fast forwarding. I just thought it was like a generic background noise for him listening to the audio, the tape recorder.
Yeah, at least in what version I was listening to, which on the Netflix one, he's got his tape player that he's constantly just got on loop, but then as she collapses next to him, he just panics and it ends up hitting one of those buttons fast forward or rewind, and then it does that sound the whole time, and that's our background to it, is just as he's got his headphones in, just hearing that. Well,
Do you have anything else, Amanda?
Nope. Not
Okay.
for that episode.
Gary, you already have a finger up. Do you have something? Or?
I don't have anything else for this episode.
Okay. Steven?
Not for this episode right now.
And JC.
One semi-throwaway line from Toji near the beginning of the episode. I'm starting to think only weirdos get chosen to be EVA pilots, which
Yes.
fairly accurate assessment by Toji so far.
I think I pointed out that he's standing right next to Shinji at that point when he says it.
I can see
You
that.
did. And I said out loud, like, well, yeah, if it was normal people, everyone could have an EVA. That is probably how it's gonna work. To be singular and unique, you're also by definition weird compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
Also,
That's all I have,
shout outs to the inner conference room elevator that one guy uses again in this episode. It's one of those like little mini single person elevators. He's just like, all right, peace out.
Yeah, I'm had it with this conversation. Buttons gone.
Peace.
Yep. And then if we get our hero of the show, Pen reemerges.
Yes.
He's hanging out with everyone. All right.
Pen.
Let's move on to episode 10 then. Everyone's favorite.
Episode 10, Magma Diver, or Magma Diver. Banned by Masato from going on a class trip to Okinawa, Shinji and Asuka catch up on their studies. An embryonic angel is found inside a volcano, and Asuka volunteers to carry out the perilous task of retrieving the creature.
So I don't have any notes written down for this one. This is the one episode I didn't get to rewatch for a second time here. Let's see, who wants to start? Steven, why don't you kick us off then?
So I guess you get to see a little bit more of I keep wanting to call her Asuna. Asuka's mean side, I guess I would say, in this episode. Get her fleshed out a little bit more as a I don't know if a control freak is really the way of putting it, but
Hi, this is Tyler from the future here. We had a weird bit of technical difficulties here at this point in time in the podcast. The whole audio stream got muted for some reason. My mistake. We will be picking back up here towards the end part of the episode there. We thought we had caught it early enough, so we just had a question repeated there, but it looks like we missed a good chunk of this episode, so we apologize for that. Hopefully it won't happen in the future here. Thanks everyone though for continuing to listen along. I will now return you to the podcast where we picked up from.
Yeah, so another thing we catch is that Gendo gets A17 authorization from the Color Council, and essentially gets permission to try and capture the angel. Fuyutsuki then mentions that it's wildly dangerous, and Gendo gets one of his creepy smiles. We then see Asuka's trying to capture the angel. We know that's something dangerous. We don't really know exactly why still, but the angel ends up waking up, essentially accelerating and growing too fast. So that's whenever they have to fight it. But we're again mentioned to as the audience that we have this potentially extremely dangerous situation without still understanding why. I think it was kind of mentioned as well that Gary had a point about what the viewers' expectations would be, I believe.
Oh, what the viewers' expectations would be regarding Asuka, anyway, about whether she'll survive. Because I always say in 21st century cinema, you have something like Game of Thrones, where if you like a character, they're going to disappear way too soon. If you dislike a character, they're going to survive forever. But I guess this shows back from the 90s. So like, as you're watching the cartoon, like, did you assume that maybe it was just like the previous episode? Her mech was going to explode. She was going to have seriously burned, but she was going to be back. Like, I don't think as a viewer, she was kind of sort of in life-threatening danger, but when I think about it, like she probably wasn't actually any danger. She had a good amount of plot armor for how new of a character she was. Tyler?
Yeah, I kind of took this as like an episode, like an introduction episode to her, like a. Oh, this happens in a lot of shows too, where you have like just a side episode that kind of comes up that talks more about this character. It's like this character special episode there for the show there. So that's kind of how I took it. So I like, there's tension and stuff like that, but I was like, she wouldn't die here in this scene here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even thinking back to my first time viewing it, like, I don't know that I had any spoilers ahead of time on this episode or anything, but it's just, it's so early. We're introduced to her 2 episodes ago, which in real time is like 40 minutes ago. Like, and she has, you don't get a full episode named after you of Asuka strikes and Asuka arrives in Japan, and then like 2 episodes later be like, oh, Asuka dies. Asuka dies in Japan. Weird.
That was weird.
That'd be a kind of bold choice for a TV show to do.
As I was saying, it was the 90s. Like, that would totally happen on Game of Thrones. Like, just you introduced to somebody and
yeah, but you wouldn't name episodes after them.
Like the Friar Tuck guy that the Hound finds. He shows up for like half an episode and you're like, oh, he's a real nice guy. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, but there's no episode called Friar Tuck. Friar Tuck arrives. Friar Tuck fights. Friar Tuck dies.
Now I'm just imagining Game of Thrones, all the episode titles redone in like a Japanese anime style.
I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what the names of the episodes were. Tyler probably had to read them out at some point, but I know like there's the Red Wedding. Is the name of the episode.
I don't think it's actually called the Red Wedding. Is it? That's a whole conversation that we've already had in a previous podcast.
Yeah. So. That's a whole other. See our previously published works.
Yes. Steven, did you have anything to kind of talk about for episode 10?
No, I covered it. I was the first one.
You did. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's been so long. Gary talking. That just time is just double birds again 2 times in one episode.
Nice.
So I guess that kind of wraps it up then for this recording here, unless we had anything else that we wanted to touch on here in this last bit. Gary?
I had the last words you hear from Suka Asaka are, you know about me, but that's all in the past.
Yep.
And kind of this, like, kind of the episode ends with kind of a cliffhanger of like, oh, she's got a dark and seedy past. What is it?
Yeah, well, we get a bit of because they're in the bathhouse because they do have a bit of a retreat away from everything after their time in lava, and yeah, Asuka sees that Masato has a scar on her chest, asks about it, and Masato reveals that she got that scar during Second Impact. This is the first time we realized that like Masato was close enough to potentially have wounds from Second Impact somehow. Asuka then asks Masato if she knows about Asuka's own past. Masato says, yep, but that's in the past now. So Masato's clearly aware of everything that's gone on in Asuka's life and is saying like, hey, we're moving forward from that. This is not dwell in the past situation here. This is just be an EVA pilot. Take it day by day.
All right. Gary, excuse me. You had nothing else, sir? All right.
That was it.
So that'll then do it then for us this recording. What will we be looking forward to next time, JC?
Next time, we have another 3-peat stack, episodes 11, 12, and 13. Episode 11, The Day Tokyo 3 Stood Still, or In the Still Darkness. Episode 12, She Said Don't Make Others Suffer for Your Personal Hatred, or The Value of Miracles. 13, I'm going to butcher this one, Lilliputian Hitcher, or Angel Infiltration. Could be Lilliputian. I don't know. Well, I'll do some studying for that for the next time to make sure I pronounce that correctly then.
it's going to be called out in the episode. We'll just get it all right then and there. That's
Maybe
what they
so.
do. That's what they do, right? That's like a thing. Like you always say your movie titles in every movie.
Right. Yes.
Call out your episode titles in Japanese anime.
It's true.
All right. Well, as I said, that'll do it then for us this episode. We want to thank everybody for listening. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.